What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Good Anime Palette Podcast. This is episode number 43. Don't have any lengthy intros or quick quips whatsoever, but I will be your co-host, Jason, just like per usual. And I have my other co-host, Will, over here, as per usual.
It's finally good to actually do something that's not just staying at home. Just to sort of give like a little minor life updates. I was stuck in home quarantine for over a week, just this past 2 weeks, actually. So I live with my girlfriend, and my girlfriend got COVID about a week and a half, and she only just recovered maybe 2-3 days ago. So I was finally able to get out of the house and actually regain my sanity, because whilst living at home is not so bad, not being able to go outside for over 160 hours was really draining on the brain. So, yeah, it's good to actually finally see people. Hopefully you don't ever have to do that. COVID sucks, dude.
I don't know. I had a couple of scares from the office. Some people tested positive, and then I had to take some tests and tested negative, and, you know, we regularly get tested every week, so.
Yeah, another, like, sort of, like, little, like, life update as well. So, my girlfriend actually works, sometimes works in the same area that you do, and apparently there have been a couple centers that had to go on lockdown because of COVID outbreaks. Or when it's an outbreak, it just means one person got COVID, so everybody gets sent home, and then they call in the disinfection team to clean up the office. And that happened like 3 times over the past 5 days. So you haven't had to deal with that, have you? Or
no, we didn't have to deal with that, and okay, maybe we shouldn't get that much into the nitty-gritty of office politics and COVID, but I was advised that since I was a close contact with a colleague who was tested positive, they recommended us to take the PCR test, the laboratory test, but we don't have to, but to send them the results. So basically, you gotta do it, and it was just like, fine.
You don't have to do it, but you gotta show results, so you have to do it.
Exactly. It's like Asian word phrasing.
It's that
right?
wording, right?
Exactly.
Right.
It's like reading in between the lines. But
enough about all that COVID bullshit. We're gonna go into today's episode, starting off with not reading and watching. Because
we have read and watched a bunch of stuff.
We're just gonna save it, right?
We're probably gonna save it. I will mention that I have started watching some Netflix series.
And I've also been watching some stuff on Disney+.
Right, and I have watched that as well. But we would probably want to have some more time to collect our thoughts. And with the Netflix series that I'm watching, which shouldn't be too hard to find out what it is if you know sort of my taste and my biases.
All the episodes are out, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so
all 10 of them.
But you haven't watched all 10 of them. I think you only watched like half of one or just one.
Like 3/4 of one.
Right.
But it was pretty good. So we will then move our reading watching to, probably the next episode.
Whenever the hell, we want to actually start talking about reading and watching stuff. It's been a little less frequent. Life sucks, but we will at least try to read and watch some more stuff so that we have an episode where we can actually sort of disclose some of the things that we aren't really talking about in the main discussion, but still want you guys to check out as well.
But we do have this time around a decent amount of news that I think is awesome.
I mean, we're going to start off with the first one, which is, has been, has Jason literally shilling every day. You've been waiting for this moment for a long time.
So I have been predicting that the Ancient Magus' Bride currently has their ONA or OVA, right? That bundles with the Japanese manga releases.
Yeah, so volume 16 through to 18 will come along with the OVAs as well. And I think the third episode of the OVA came out just over a week ago.
I know. I think it's coming out September 22nd.
So it says September 9th on my anime list.
Oh, really? Then I should watch it then. Because it should be on Crunchyroll then. Okay, so my prediction at the time was, because I read the manga, I knew that this anime original content is kind of like a stall, so then they can go over and announce season 2 when it was over. I think I mentioned that not only to Will, but I may have mentioned it onto the podcast several times.
Well, about a week and a half ago, we finally got an announcement that Ancient Magus' Bride will be airing on TV the second season. So actually,
For April.
there are a couple changes. So it'll be coming out in 2023. But rather than being done by Wit Studio, we actually briefly talked about this when we did our Wit Studio analysis episode. It will actually be done by Studio Kafka, which was responsible for doing the OVAs.
Right, and for those who are unaware, Studio Kafka is essentially the anime studio that was started by the creator of Evangelion. So they have been doing the Evangelion remakes that are movies that are doing, was it like Evangelion 3.1
3.1 plus 1.1
thrice or something.
Yeah, thrice upon
something. It was like crazy, but hey, that's just anime for you. So to my knowledge, looking at the OVA, just the trailer, because I want to wait till all 3 episodes were out, it looks very similar in terms of animation quality and fluidity and everything. And now they have announced officially a second season that will premiere in April of 2023 that will cover the next major arc, also known as the college arc. You can probably surmise what that means. I have read that arc already. It's pretty dope. So
to start off with, it'll start airing in Japan not only on Hikari TV, but also on Amazon Prime Video. So when it will get an international release, probably shortly afterwards. But at the moment, it seems like possibly that it's exclusive on Amazon for the time being.
I mean, maybe they have different arrangements in different regions. I guess, like, for example, maybe outside of Japan and North America or something like that. But yes, that seems to be currently the arrangement that has been announced so far. So we'll have to see how it goes when we get around to, it would be spring of 2023. Right. All right.
On to the next bit. So whilst one adaptation has been greenlit, as in the second season, there is now the announcement of the confirmation of an end of another anime adaptation, which is Frieren, Beyond Journey's End. The anime adaptation has... Oh, no. It hasn't been... No, sorry. I read it wrong. It's the not the end. It is Frieren Beyond Journey's End. There's going to be an anime adaptation, which has been confirmed for... Has it been confirmed yet for the dates?
I said... I think they have confirmed it for 2023, but they have not announced a studio... Or actually, they have not announced any details other than a poster that says, "Yo, we're making an anime." So
not literally. It's just like symbolically it means anime is coming. So not too many details revealed. There hasn't been an announcement in terms of the actual date, nor has there been, like, at least from Shogakukan, the manga publisher. They haven't revealed what format the anime is coming in. So I'm assuming they mean like whether it's going to be 1 cour, 2 cours, however many.
Right. That's what I'm assuming. I'm assuming it's just going to be, the typical animation quality style of any other anime series adaptation. What I will say is, for those who know, Frieren Beyond Journey's End is a manga series that has won the GAP Finale Award for Best Manga, and also manga that hella needs an adaptation.
Correction, it was your award.
Yes.
I didn't give it shit at all. Yeah.
So this is a manga about basically an elf that has been a part of the core hero party that has vanquished the demon lord. So then now that, peace has been restored, and also because this elf lives hundreds and hundreds of years, everyone around her, either goes through a bunch of shit or passes away, and then she has to deal with being able to outlive everyone else and how that affects her life and her psyche.
Pretty much sounds like a Monogatari series kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's won a shit ton of awards. I read the manga. I think it's great. It's really heavy, and you wouldn't suspect it as such. So,
and now we move on to the next thing, because before you keep on shilling about your Frierens and your Ancient Magus' brides, we're going to talk about something you absolutely do not give a shit about, which is the announcement of the debut for Bleach, 1,000-Year Blood War. So there has been a second video trailer for it, warcast updates, song updates. It is going to be... This is actually the crazy part, too. It is going to be a split 4-cour anime. They're going balls deep on the adaptation for the 1,000-Year War, and it literally has felt like 1,000 years since there has been any Bleach adaptations.
And guess what? It's going to be, if you take all 4 cours together, roughly a 1 whole year war, basically. So
I don't even know how it's going to roll out, though, because it won't basically be consecutively 4 curs, right? Back to back.
I mean, that's why they call it split.
Hopefully, what I mean, so when you split, there's going to be breaks in between, right? Because we haven't seen many series, maybe outside of like One Piece or Conan or any of like the long running anime series where it actually runs from season to season to season to season. I know that for a lot of like the big 3 or like really major shonen series that they kind of break the mold because they're allowed that pass, but I don't know, man. Like
they're just gonna do the Smags family thing of part 1, part 2, the jobless reincarnation thing of part 1, part 2, and have one season
break
anime
in between, right?
Exactly. I think that's really it. So it will, from beginning to end, I predict span 8 anime seasons with an actual anime premiere for the cur every other season.
Yeah. So if you care to figure out, like what's the major updates for Bleach, Thousand Year War, specifically with staff and cast and all that, just look at Anime News Network. There's a whole list of names of
Who's
people
making it again.
I actually don't know. I didn't see, but it doesn't really matter because I haven't watched a lot of Bleach since the Soul Society arc. No, the Aizen arc. So since then, I haven't really gotten much into like anything further for Bleach. So not that bothered. But I know that there are a lot of Bleach fans out there that have been dying to see the adaptation of Thousand Year War. So yay! Congratulations to all of you. Your wait is finally upon you, and you can actually start watching some Bleach very, 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 very soon.
To my knowledge, this adaptation will then cover literally the last section of the whole Bleach manga. Therefore, it's a complete adaptation, basically, if you take all the previous seasons put together.
So. About time. I think, if we talked about like the big 3, right, with One Piece, Bleach, Naruto, both Naruto and One Piece are essentially faithfully adapted, with Naruto pretty much done, if you exclude whatever's going on with Boruto. One Piece has been adapting every single chapter of the manga, and it's still been running for over 25 years. Bleach was the only one that just basically like shit the bed and decided that not to continue forward. So all Bleach fans can rejoice. You're finally going to get the ending you've wanted in anime form. So yeah, let us know how you feel about it. It's going to be a lot of shit for us to catch up on in order to get to the Thousand Year War. So
I'll be honest, I'm not going to catch up on it, but I still think that Bleach, as much as, I shit on it personally, Bleach, Naruto, Death Note, all of these sort of, or even Full Metal Alchemist as well, I still put them at very high regard and very nostalgic of like my anime and manga consumption, career, so to speak. It's not even a career, but hey, I really like to see the end of it at the very least, right? Or at least know that it is completed. So then, should I start it or restart it, more accurately speaking, it's there. That's it.
Yeah, well, hey, look, you have plenty of time to read and watch all of the Bleach stuff if you want. I mean, like, did you also end up like finishing like the Soul Society and Aizen arc, or like
yeah, I did.
And then everything else afterwards, nah, right?
Nah.
So yeah, we'll just move on from this then, because
I remember there's a mask. There's hollow.
Oh yeah, no, spoiler alert, he ends up getting hollow powers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he also gets Quincy powers.
Yeah, maybe that was the one I stopped midway, because there was one where there's a section that covers a major arc where everything was supposed to be back to normal, like actually back to normal, but it's not, and then it shits the bed.
No, because there were several arcs of Bleach where Titakubo, the mangaka for Bleach, just kept on sort of like writing a story that created a problem and then creating a new story that was solving that problem but created a new problem, and all the solution was we'll just make Ichigo just obtain the power of the villain he's fighting, and then that way he'll win. And at that point, it wasn't even like a power scaling or like an overpoweredness kind of thing. It was just basically, we don't want this story to end, so why don't we just give a quick fix and just give Ichigo like the powers to overcome adversity and then just figure it out afterwards. And they just kept repeating. People got kind of like tired of it, because
I got tired of
it.
it.
What was the point of like reading or watching something where you just know that like this is the main character, this is the guy who's supposed to drive the plot, and if you can't get him past the first stumbling block, then what's the point in reading or watching the rest of it?
I just think that the trope of the shonen kind of development is extremely egregious for Bleach, because not only is it with Ichigo as well, all the supporting characters, which some of them are really good, go through the same shtick, literally every single arc.
It's not to say that like the other shonen series don't fall foul to it. I mean, we definitely see similar things happening with Naruto. Definitely see a lot of the similar things in One Piece. However, I feel like, and this is again nothing against like Kubo, right? It's just it's written in a way where it doesn't feel egregious. Like it's just like a small level of progression, and then you're like, okay, great, I can move on to the next arc of One Piece. I can move on to the next arc of Naruto. Whereas this was just like you knew at the end of each arc that thing was going to happen, and it just got tiring for me. So I just never bothered like reading anything beyond the Aizen arc because spoiler alert, I just read like reports and reviews online. It's just like, yeah, no, it's just the same shit. Just
different
a different
day.
arc.
Yeah, there you go. Different arc. Yeah. So, look, regardless, it is nice to see that an old staple from way back when is finally being completely adapted all the way through. So, good on Bleach, I guess.
Right. Now we're also going to talk about another adaptation. However, not an anime adaptation. However, it is still a manga adaptation, turning onto the theatrical stage. Nodame Cantabile is getting its first stage musical next year in the fall of 2023. I'm pretty excited about that. Problem is, though, I probably won't be able to go to Tokyo at that. I don't know. We're talking like 12 months in the future. Will travel be fine? Will Japan start fully allowing tourists to come in without having to do PCR tests and having to sign up to guided tours? I don't know. But the focus is not on Japan. The focus is on Nodame Cantabile, a very, very beautiful music-focused anime series that I watched when I was a teenager. And it just makes sense for this kind of thing to actually get like a stage adaptation. It's meant to have, I mean, dude, they have musical performances, they have piano concertos, they have like violin duets. It's kind of boggling that it took this long for an adaptation to come out.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, any music-oriented show by default is like opens the doors to having a concert, having a performance, kind of event. So it makes sense. As Will mentioned, I don't know why it took this long.
They might have just calculated because it is 20 years since the manga launched. So that might have some effect on it. They just wanted to do it like a 20th anniversary adaptation as kind of thing.
Yeah.
Who knows? Because they have manga, they have anime, they have live action, and then they have movies for both the anime and the live action. So, hey, just complete the whole trifecta and also get a stage play as well. Quadfecta, yeah.
Quadfecta. Okay. So, yeah, I like Nodame Cantabile. I unfortunately still have it on hold for the first season. But
it's a lot of anime, though. I think like both seasons are double curves.
Yes, and then there are the movies. And I think there might be some specials or OVAs that connect the two seasons.
But this is not one of those series that you just need to binge, right? It's just like, here's an episode or two over there. It's supposed to be calming, soothing. It's not one
really
of those.
Nice, yeah.
It's not one of those things you want to just rush, right?
Yeah.
So just take your time with it, or maybe just wait until the stage play opens up, and then maybe that might be a good time to catch up on everything.
I do think one of the reasons why they are announcing it for fall of 2023 is because, hey, we want to make this event happen, but we also want to give enough time so that maybe COVID is not that much of a thing anymore, because in Japan right now it's pretty bad. So hopefully the world will be more safe a year from now, and sort of telling everyone, hey, get your butts ready to sit in the concert hall and listen to some classical music.
Right. Now on to another adaptation. This is a continuation of a series that dropped, I believe, in fall, was it? No, it was summer. Summer of 2021. We're talking about Kanojo no Kamajo, Girlfriend. They are getting a second season. So, the first season itself, score-wise, didn't do very well. A 6.56, but it was definitely quite popular with almost 300 members that joined onto the MAL club for it. So that puts its popularity at around 694. So top 700, that's pretty damn good within the sphere of anime. At the moment, there hasn't been an announcement on which studio was doing the second season, but I believe that the first season was done by Tezuka Productions. I mean, would it be so far-fetched to say that it would be the same studio?
No, it would not be far-fetched whatsoever.
You watched the first season of it, right?
So I gave it an 8. It should
simp.
I know it's really dumb because people will be like, well, same thing as like Rent a Girlfriend, all those harem shows, and I'm like, yeah, you're not wrong. I guess quintessential quintuplets. I guess I just decided to choose girlfriend among all of these shows, right? But girlfriend is very stupid in a way that I appreciate, and kind of it's just everyone's being dumb and stupid. I kind of dig it. So I'm excited for second season. I don't think the quality will wow a lot of people in terms of the writing or the animation, but it should be a stupid fun time.
As far as like high school harem shows go, like how often do you come across like S tier writing and S tier animation quality? Like, I don't think either of those are really the motive of the people who create that kind of shit anyway.
You said S tier harem high school, right? I would say nowadays that kind of setting and genre with harems is more like trashy. But I would argue back then with like Ichigo 100, I would say with Love Hina, there was like
the writing and the animation quality were not good with either of those, but especially Love Hina.
Yeah.
No. Ichigo was worse, actually. Ichigo 100% was worse. I did like it a bit more, but I wasn't watching it for good writing or good animation.
I did like the manga for Love Hina.
It's very clear like what these kinds of shows are trying to do for the audience, and that's not like a fault of anything. I mean, like you watch shonen action specifically for shonen action, right? If the story sucks, that doesn't matter. If the fights are good, people are still going to have enough eyes on the screen to enjoy it. I mean, look what's happened with freaking Shimatsu no Valkyrie, like Record to Ragnarok.
Oh, right.
So that one, it's like animation quality, trash, but there were some fight scenes that were actually pretty solid. The writing was also like pretty much the same as what you expect from the manga, but no one really cares about that. People just want to see people beating each other up. That's why it's popular. And I can see the same thing with Girlfriend, quintessential quintuplets, Rent a Girlfriend, those kinds of shows. It's just a matter of what your level of cringe and affinity to harem romance is. So if it's your shtick, then hey, I got no complaints for you.
Yeah, I think it is good news nonetheless, and I will watch it for sure. Second season.
One thing that neither of us are going to be doing at all, though, is playing Genshin Impact. So this one's actually
promo code. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
No.
Free rolls and all that, right? Get your gotcha pants on. So yeah, this was a bit of an interesting bit of news. This came out as of recording just yesterday. Hoyoverse, which is the company that produces and makes the game Genshin Impact, is doing a long-term collaboration with a very renowned studio, Ufotable.
Wait, Ufotable as in Demon Slayer Ufotable?
So the thing is, right? Like, as much as I deride Genshin Impact, it's just because for me, it's just basically Breath of the Wild, but Breath of the Waifus. If you ever played Legend of Zelda,
Breath of the Waifus, that's a good one.
Yeah, so it's literally just that, and see all that honking in the background. That just shows how much people don't really care about this. But I digress. It's actually a very popular game. A lot of people actually do play it, and it's not just purely for streaming purposes, though that's also like a pretty big chunk of people on Twitch. Graphically, it actually looks pretty solid. So now that you add like Ufotable on there, like this is a terrifying combination.
Yeah, and Genshin Impact has made its stride, I think, over the years for sure in terms of being very, very popular and accessible and cutesy at the same time. And I have a work colleague who literally has a budget for gacha games that he puts aside every month. And
you've told me what that budget is as well, and it's a terrifying number.
It's a very terrifying number. He splits it with the Uma Musume game. So
it's almost at the level of people who buy like figures and who buy limited edition like Blu-ray covers and stuff. Like it's that kind of budget we're talking about.
Right. Like, not throwing shade at people who like to collect figurines or people who like to play gacha games, right?
We're just saying it's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money, and like everyone has their own poison, right? So it's not to knock against them, but regardless, the number that I have that I know, and this person is not lying. Why would this person lie? It's pretty crazy. But going back to the original news with Genshin Impact, so the trailer that got released was just basically a bunch of rendered 3D environments. So
yeah, it's a project launch announcement just to say that Hoyoverse and Ufotable are going to be working together on whatever collaboration they're doing.
So besides the Genshin Impact part, I thought the thing that was rather interesting, obviously, is the Ufotable involvement. I think mainly because Ufotable, I always seem to get the impression that they always just do like one main project, and then like they just ride with it all the way to the bank until it ends. So for example, like Fate Stay Night especially, they did Unlimited Blade Works, they did Heaven's Feel with the 3 movies, they helped with Tsukihime, which actually, to be honest, I was expecting a Tsukihime anime adaptation announcement because it's been a long time for the original one and it's not too highly rated, and because there was a video game for the visual novel and they did the animation for it, and it's fucking gorgeous.
I think what they do is like they have like a main series that they do for anime, which is of course Demon Slayer. But then when it comes to
now it is, yeah.
When it comes to video game adaptations, they can do other stuff too. I mean, just in like the past year, they had okay, fine, they did the illustrations for the Demon Slayer game. They did Tsukihime, but he also did Tales of Arise in terms of doing the opening animations and some cutscenes as well.
I need to play that game. Everyone's saying it's so good, and I'm not denying that. It's just it's going to be a long 100-something hours.
But one thing that also that we're not like informed on as well is the level of like involvement that Ufotable will have. Like, they're definitely not going to be making like the whole game from the ground up along with Hoyoverse. The game already exists, and as is, it looks pretty damn good already. So I would just imagine they're doing, animation inserts, cutscenes, stuff like that. Whatever level of involvement they have, look, it's like if you want like some team to work with you on a project, like, Ufotable is definitely not the word. It's an amazing catch for the Hoyoverse team.
So the direct quote, which is like literally what they said in the press release, is we are collaborating for a long-term collaboration project, right? So I actually don't think it's a video game related thing. I think it's a Genshin Impact anime.
I mean, they already have Genshin Impact anime,
but I think like they're just gonna do something again. Look, I don't know.
Maybe an OVA, ONA, maybe a movie.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know about the Genshin Impact lore. I know there's like a lot of it.
There's a whole lot of it.
So
there's a lot of dojins about it as well.
Well,
dojinshis and shit. It's just
like 6-digit numbers, right? Things like that.
Yep. So look up that code whenever the new stuff comes out. But hey, maybe one day we'll be talking about an Genshin Impact anime on the GAPN podcast. Who knows?
And maybe we'll have a code. Who knows? But I think that wraps up all of the news.
Yeah, I think like in terms of like any other updates for news, it's mainly going to be updates on casts and studios, release dates for upcoming series because, lo and behold, we are reaching the end of the summer season. You would know that because if you look onto the anime seasonal search on my anime list, it's now featuring the fall catalog.
Oh, so they moved the default viewing. Yep, that's when you know.
So I looked it up, I was like, oh, fuck, we're here now.
Or like AnyChart, right? When they like flip it to
because they'll tell you when it's about to release because there's a lot of stuff. I mean, like as of recording, right? Basically, the first episode of the fall season this year is going to release in 2 weeks. So it's really damn close, right? Like it's going to get closer and closer. By the time we start recording and releasing the next episode, we will be like at the brunt of like the first week release of fall. So yeah, just as sort of like a little spoiler alert, there's going to be a little bit of a change to how we usually do our seasonal analyses. This one is going to be a bit more of a preview, but some stuff might have already come out, so we can
actually
there would have been
like one or two,
just some. So
there's one in September, I think, but everything else is literally
like the
that
week afterwards.
Is that weekend onwards, right?
Yeah, so it would be more like a preview than an actual analysis. But the core of it's still going to be the same. We're going to be talking about a lot of anime for fall because there's a lot of heavy hitters.
Yeah.
We may even introduce a new sort of format into doing our seasonal bets too, which we will go into in the next episode. So,
right. So we are trying to do this kind of, because also due to scheduling conflicts, it just so happens that we are in this weird in-between spot with premieres, and we thought we would give a shot of, kind of doing a forecast of the shows that will basically premiere either that day that we're recording and onwards. So
the crux of the episode is still going to be the same.
Yeah,
just
of course.
Loads and loads of talk about anime that we're hyped for.
Tons
and
of research.
Stuff that we're kind of like, I'm not too sure about, and stuff that we will absolutely not touch with a 10-foot pole. So, yeah.
Wait, what wouldn't you touch with a 10-foot pole? Well, no, sorry. What wouldn't you like?
Domestic girlfriend. I would be right up front with it. I don't need no 10-foot pole. I'm going to be right beside Yuri Tachibana and everybody else.
No, I thought you meant fall.
Yeah, there's absolutely going to be stuff that I'm not going to be touching.
Which is like
stuff that like you. Okay, so you're going to tell me you're going to be watching all the Conan stuff?
No,
exactly. There you go.
Well, I mean, yeah, okay, all right, fair enough. Fair
enough. Not just Conan; it's a spin-off Conan as well. So hey, that's if not a 10-foot pole, fine, 5-foot pole. I'm still going to be watching that shit. There's a lot of stuff I will be watching though. So that pretty much wraps up the news updates for this episode. We may have more going in the future, but just basically expect that any other updates we have, we'll most likely be talking about adaptation announcements, stuff like that. So yeah, we will move into a little bit of like a sort of like a soft introduction into
preamble,
into the topic of today's discussion. So we've talked a lot about different studios, different genres, different types of, so I guess, sort of little spheres within the anime and manga world. This one is a bit different because it's not necessarily a genre on its own, and as a theme, it's also quite wide branching. We're going to be talking about revenge in anime and manga. So we found this to be not necessarily like the easiest topic to go into, simply because the idea of revenge, or like what revenge represents, it's a very broad spectrum. So we will sort of give like a sort of brief introduction as to what we're talking about for revenge anime, why we want to talk about it, and then after the break, we'll go into specific examples of the types of revenge that we come across in anime and manga, and go into some series that we really want to recommend that I think feature revenge very, very, very nice.
So I think right now, before we head off to the break for the second half, where we actually go in depth into the main discussion
You're
topic,
literally saying what I just said.
Will and I are going to go over the first preamble, bro? And then therefore
you're offering a preamble to my preamble.
Yeah, and then therefore
I raise.
Yes, exactly, because you see, there is. Here at the Good Anime Palette Podcast, we do a lot of different genres. Okay, sorry.
We just aren't like, oh, come on, man. All right, so
sorry, I'm a bit flustered today. My bad.
Yeah. So like, why do we want to talk about revenge in the first place? Like we have like topics, specifically, for example, we talked about shonen stuff. We talked about horror. We've talked about I guess like specific studios that have a kind of centric theme as to why they do certain adaptations. But revenge itself it's not necessarily something that when we talk to, at least our friends or like, just passersby about like anime and manga, that it's a subject that comes up very often.
Right. It is something that is not that, as Will said, it's not its own genre, but like, for example, we have done themes of like, for example, robots and androids in the past. Fashion. So,
which was a really good episode. I really liked doing that one.
Yeah, that was an awesome episode. So, and we wanted to sort of have these kind of thematic kind of discussions and how it pertains to anime and manga. Revenge is something that I think is something that's relatable to pretty much everyone.
Yeah. So should we just give like a quick definition of revenge according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary?
I thought you said you didn't want me to go that in-depth into it.
At least we just have that part, and then everything else afterwards you can sort of just free flow it.
Okay, so essentially it is defined, revenge is defined according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary as a desire for vengeance or retribution, or it is an act or instance of retaliating to get even. And I guess the third they have like 4 definitions. The third one is an opportunity for getting satisfaction, and the other one, which I thought was really funny, was sought revenge through a rematch. So it has the definition of revenge has the word revenge in it. I was just like,
yeah. So yeah, like what does the word revenge mean? It means to revenge. Okay, I'll go with that.
It must have been like some intern like inputting like the definition, and then be like, just put it in there. It's fine.
It's like, oh, you want to be a millionaire? Whichever answer has the word that question's in, that's the answer, and that's how you lose $1 million. So we usually like plan out topics, discussions like a season or 2 ahead of time. So by the time this one came out, we had already planned this out like maybe like 6-9 months ago. This is the sort of process that we go into, because just because we're doing season 4 right now doesn't mean we don't have shit for season 6 and beyond.
But that doesn't also mean that we're working on it like intensely as well.
So whilst we incepted the idea of doing revenge as a topic, we only really started doing shit for it like maybe a week ago.
No, to be fair, I did it like maybe like 3 weeks ago.
Okay, you added stuff to the docket and then you left it for 2 weeks. And then you came back to it now. It's just like, okay, this is what we have.
Hey,
shit, we don't have enough. Let's add more stuff to it now.
To be fair, I did add it 3 weeks ago. Is that correct?
No, I didn't, I'm not denying that at all. Okay,
so...
So the thing with this though is like we've definitely watched a lot of revenge anime, we've read a lot of revenge manga, but I think and I think this is also quite important as well. We will go over it a bit more when we do the second half of today's episode, but we wanted to at least have a clear distinction on revenge itself. So a lot of the stuff we'll be talking about in terms of the recommendations will be pertaining to anime with the central theme of revenge. We don't necessarily mean that we're going to be talking about anime and manga series that feature revenge. Now, it might be a little sort of like pedantic there. It's like, well, what's the real big difference there? What we mean is that like there are stories that have really, really good revenge in it, but that's not necessarily the driving force of the overall story itself.
I think a very good example of that I consumed recently is Vinland Saga. That is a very good anime that has revenge as a core theme, but if you were to look at the whole series as a whole, it is not just about revenge. It's about so many different things. But there are definitely anime and manga series where getting revenge or retribution, karmic justice is sort of the name of the game, the main crux of that show. Yeah. So that's the difference that we want to stipulate.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, there are some series that have amazing revenge arcs, but a revenge arc itself is not going to suffice, right? That is just like a microcosm within like the whole organism itself, right? We want to make sure that whilst we're talking about a series, that the main focal point is going to be revenge, and everything else afterwards feeds into it as well, not the other way around.
Now, we will talk about shows that have revenge elements, and just so that we cover our bases as well. But
yeah, we're not going to be like that, but I think we will be covering like the spectrum itself. But for the core focus of recommendations, revenge is
the name of the game, right?
A dish best served cold.
Yeah.
So I think it might be time to get into a quick break. I'm actually fucking starving right now. So a little bit of a short first half, but we'll make sure that we have a plentiful second half to go over, because there's actually quite a lot of stuff we want to go over. So we will catch you in the next half.
Peace.
We are back with the second half of today's episode of the GAP podcast. Today is episode 43. We just got done eating lunch, and unfortunately the studio has a slight cheese pong right now. Jason had to open up the fridge to get some cold water, and I also have a nice wheel of camembert and some blue cheese that has been stinking up my house for the past 2-3 weeks.
If it pleases the jury of the court, I would like to emphasize the fact that I did not know that the cheese was in the refrigerator.
Are you saying that it's inadmissible evidence?
That is correct.
Are you throwing this case?
Please dismiss this case, Your Honor.
We can settle.
I do not think we will settle.
I'll get you half a wheel of cheese.
Honestly, I think that this is defamation. I think...
this is my house, dude. You defame my house with my cheese. Why am I using my argument against myself? Anyways, going back onto today's topic. So we had a little bit of a preamble on why we're talking about revenge for today's episode. So I guess how we should start is what appeals to us about revenge, right? Like we've seen a lot of stories and a lot of like series that center on the idea of character revenge, societal revenge, vigilantism, which is in a sense vigilante revenge. So why do we like revenge? Like is there like a specific series that got into it, or is it like just beyond anime and manga, like even like in live action or other forms of literature that like a good revenge story is something that really, warms the cockles of my heart.
Wait, so are you asking me,
what
Jason, or are you asking like in general?
Well, for you, and like you can base it off of what your general perception of why people like revenge stories too.
So, if I had to say sort of like the main reason, right? Obviously, there are a multitude of reasons. I think the primary reason is sometimes you just like people to just eat it, like karmic justice, like
get their comeuppance.
Right, exactly. Get what they're just desserts, as they will. I mean, we're having a lot of like food puns for revenge because dish best served cold type thing. Okay, but yeah, it is also a very, in my opinion, very easy concept to understand because I would think that no one, and I mean no one, has had never had an experience about wanted to take revenge on someone. It's just impossible. No one is that pure,
vindictive, really. I think in the end it's just like
maybe you're not doing that thing, right? But you are being like, oh, I just wish this person just for wronging me gets what they deserve, that type thing.
I think like inherently we all have some form of justice, right? Like we always feel that there are certain things that need to be done a certain way, and if someone comes in and steps on your party or like really like ruins it for you, that you want them to get what they deserve because look, I'm only doing what I think is right, and if you're gonna come in my way then like and ruin everything, get the fuck out my way. I'm gonna show you how you're wrong, and I'm gonna feel good about myself at the end of it.
I think one thing that we have to emphasize here is revenge is a form of punishment, but not all forms of punishment are revenge. I just think that it may sound like a very pedantic argument, but I think that is a very important distinction because when you punish someone, it does not mean that you're doing it out of spite, which is usually has its ties with revenge. It doesn't mean that you have any prior kind of conflicts with this person, thing, organization, whatnot. But revenge, on the other hand, it just is this emotionally charged kind of retribution that you want to inflict upon whoever is on the other side, that you just want, in many ways, kind of like evil. Like you just want them to get fucked up.
We all believe in some form of karma, right? That the good guys get what they deserve and the bad guys get what they deserve.
I mean, I personally try to adhere to that type of philosophy, right? But I don't think that I am a saint either.
One of those like do unto others as you want others to do unto you, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But again, like you said, like in any instance of revenge, it's never always like pure either, right? Sometimes like you want to have that karmic justice at the end of it, but really, like sometimes we want revenge just because we want to feel good about ourselves.
Yeah, and it's a very greedy, selfish type of response sometimes, right?
But that's why, like, when it comes to like the forms of literature, media, like an anime and manga, when you see it, that's what like appeals to people too. At least I feel, because like, you want to feel good after watching something. Like if you watch like a long revenge story, usually first half is just shit. This main character is like rough and tumble, getting beat up, been wronged every single step, and then you see the slow steps towards that justice podium, and then when they finally attain their revenge, you're like, oh, that felt so good seeing them get what they deserve.
Or they fell from on high and have to claw their way back up, and each step of the way remembering why this person got figuratively pushed off in the first place in order to push those people when this character meets them and inflicts what he or she feels is the right response.
Right. But this is like one of those instances where it's...
Sorry, I'm like readjusting my chair. My bad.
It's one of those instances where we feel it's like as close to black and white, right? That there's a good side and a bad side. But I think the other thing when it comes to revenge stories is the appeal of like philosophical debate as well, where one person might be seeking revenge to be able to uphold their own virtues and values. But then if we also then saw the other side, that what they're fighting for as well, in some cases, may also be, the right thing to do too. So it's just one of those, like, you want to go out of your way to fight for something, but whatever, it's like that's the inherent selfishness in all of us, where it's like we want to do things, and there are always going to be people around you that do things that step in your way. So is it that what we're doing is wrong? Is it what they're doing is wrong?
I think there is a very big kind of appeal in revenge-oriented shows or movies or manga, anime, where you see people getting pushed to their limits and in many ways lose their humanity in the process. And in the case of the viewer, kind of be like, well, was it all worth it, right?
Exactly, right? It's like it's that sort of morality debate too.
Yeah.
So like there are two examples of this, right? Like for example, like in really big examples too. Full Metal Alchemist. Both the Alchemist, like the base version and the
base version,
the vanilla version,
vanilla.
Full Metal Alchemist Vanilla and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Scar, right? His spoilers. His whole bloodline got wiped out because of war and because of one person's wrongdoing, and then he decides to shred every ounce of humanity in him to just destroy whatever's in front of him to be able to avenge his family. So it's just one of those like seeking revenge, but at what cost? Like, what else do you have to lose to be able to obtain that revenge?
And in regards to Fullmetal Alchemist Scar in particular, and I will now mention a very well-known example in terms of revenge as well, is Naruto and Sasuke. And in both of these cases, they are doing revenge kind of out of tradition or familial reasons, such that it's not always because you personally, that character has that vindictive attitude towards this other person or organization, but because, oh, my family has been doing it for generations. We never get along. Therefore, we can't get along. Like Romeo and Juliet, the two houses don't get along. Why? Nobody really cares anymore. We're just adversaries, period.
Yeah. But at the same time, back on the whole Romeo and Juliet thing, right? So, like, the whole idea of them having conflict in the first place is because of the fact that the family honor is on the line, right? And like this is quite particular, not just in like Western media and literature, but also like I would say there's a bit
like
more
the Bushido way kind of thing.
There's definitely more of an emphasis within Asian cultures like Japan, Korea, Thailand, China, where like defending one's honor is like a virtue that like you don't just bestow on anybody.
Isn't the samurai seppuku, right?
Seppuku, yeah.
Yeah, where it's a very painful thing to inflict on yourself just to restore the honor that has been lost through a certain action.
Now, that is, of course, like a very extreme way of defending one's honor. Like, and in fact, like nowadays, no one really does that at all.
Nowadays, please don't do any of that, to yourself or anyone else.
There actually was like a famous Japanese writer that committed seppuku back in the 80s. I forgot who it was, but that was like the pinnacle of like defiance of the society that he lives in and wanting to defend his own honor by doing that, by committing that ultimate act of quote unquote honor. But of course, those instances don't really exist in society now. But like I think when it comes to like Asian cultures, we're a very face society. We care about what people think about us, and therefore we don't want anyone to belittle ourselves. And also, we don't do anything to really just besmirch like our family name and all that.
Yeah, and another thing that seems to be a very common theme nowadays in all forms of media, even anime and manga, is the difference between personal value and personal justice over, I guess, the system in question. So in this case, a law, you've heard it time and time again, like the law sometimes, there are cracks and people find loopholes, or the one person gets away with something and the law just couldn't arrest them even though everyone knows that they're guilty, so you decide to take the law in your own hands and go full Punisher on these people. I think that kind of I mean, there's like tons and tons of these examples all over literature and media that it is when the system fails you, the only thing you can rely on then is your own self.
Well, I think that's a good transition into, I guess, one of the areas of revenge that we see a lot of examples of, which is like vigilante revenge versus using the system to protect yourself to be able to enact revenge. So to sort of like really go into like the differences between the two, I think we have to give examples of backing up what vigilante revenge is and what revenge through the system is. There's of course would be a lot more examples of the former because vigilante type story arcs are a lot more prevalent in my opinion than to see something that is like using a system to be able to enact revenge. So for example, like vigilante revenge, you've watched Psycho-Pass,
Yes.
right? Shinya Kagami,
Yeah.
the detective in the first season,
Yep.
clearly like has a really strong sense of justice, but from the beginning
Was it Akane is the
the partner,
the partner,
but
right?
she's like actually like according to the system, she's fully operated to work in her role.
like by the books.
Whereas like Shinya is he's a crook, right? He's been deemed like worthless in society, and he's essentially like if he was ever to, he has a very high chance of recidivism, where like he's committed crimes. If he was ever let out of the system, he would commit crimes too. But then they have a system which puts him into control, under control, to be able to serve what
The greater good,
what
I
the
guess.
system wants him to do. But when he then comes across a case of a specific murderer, where it's just like
an anomaly, basically, where the system cannot account for, right? I mean, sorry to cut you
Yeah.
off, but that's essentially what happens, right? And it gets to affect it affects actually basically all of the characters in terms of Psycho-Pass. And then even onwards when technically this villain doesn't exist anymore or it's been resolved. I think Psycho-Pass is a very good example of an extreme version of a very rigid system that everyone blindly follows and assumes is flawless, and then when shit hits the fan, it just goes off the rails so tragically and spectacularly. That's just carnage.
it's the Sybil system, right?
Yes, Sybil.
Sybil. Yep.
Do you know why it's called Sybil?
I forgot.
Because it's the Lady Justice.
That's why. Okay. Another example of that sort of like vigilante revenge. This one's a bit of like an edge case. I'm talking about Naofumi Iwatani from Rising of the Shield Hero. So it's not necessarily that he's like seeking revenge. He's not necessarily a vengeful character, but he starts off as one of the 4 knights that was summoned to be able to fight against this greater evil. But from the beginning, he was ousted by those who feel that because he's a shield holder, he's the shield bearer, that he actually has no bearing whatsoever in terms of defending and protecting his the kingdom that he was summoned to. And so then from the get go, I think even like it was literally the first episode, he's already been ousted, right? He's been slandered. He's been like called names. He's been
very
accused.
fast.
And then you just watch like through a whole season of Rising of the Shield Hero that he just basically picks himself back up, doesn't even blame himself anymore, and just goes forward, does his shit, does his job. But by doing his job, that in itself is going against the system because they wanted him to have nothing to do with the kingdom whatsoever.
Best revenge arc ever.
So it's not so much a strong case of just pure revenge, but this is somebody that's carrying out his duties in the face of adversity just to prove to people that he was right from the beginning.
Well, I think in the beginning for Naofumi, it was to sort of get back at everyone, prove everyone wrong in like a very vindictive, like passionate sense, right? But then over time, when more people start to realize who Naofumi is and how powerful he is, and also just how good of a person he is comparatively to the other heroes, it just evolves into something else. But yes, it does stem from revenge. Like that's the catalyst that started all this, right?
I mean, he's just basically proving his haters wrong.
Right.
And how wrong they were. That was a very satisfying end to the first season.
First cur of the first season, to be
And
precise.
unfortunately, very, very terrible score for the second cur.
Well, only second season, you mean?
Well, no, first half of Wait, I thought the first season itself was the season, right? Isn't it just 12 episodes?
No,
It was 24 episodes?
you should. Okay, can you double check? So now I am going to mention another very common and I guess relatively well-known example of vigilantism, and that is regarding a show that you may or may not have heard of.
25 episodes.
Yep, so 2 curs. But season 2 of Shield Hero is only 1 cur. In fact, it's less. It's like 10 episodes.
But I also did say first season, not first cur earlier, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I was still technically right.
No, but the revenge thing only lasted till the first cur of the first season.
What was happening in this? No, wait, no. The punishment happened in the second, like literally in the second last episode, didn't it not?
You made the same exact mistake when we were talking about this exact same thing last time.
No, I'm right here. Wait, no, okay, I'm gonna ruin everything here. They literally prosecute them in like the second last episode of the season.
No.
It didn't happen that early. No. What were they doing in the second half then?
They were fighting a religious organization.
Yeah, and then afterwards, then the princess.
The queen doesn't show up until the end of the first cur, where the punishment happens.
So they fought but the prosecution still happened after the fight with the. It did, Jason.
All right, okay.
It absolutely did.
Fuck. Do we have to pause the show?
No. You keep talking about your thing. I'm gonna
fine. Okay. Look, we just this is gonna be fucking great. So, the My Hero Academia example that I want to talk about, vigilantism, is about a person called Stain. Now, Stain, I think, represents a very interesting example of not only vigilantism, but how strong this person's belief system is and how the law of this world treats villains and how he is kind of a villain, kind of an anti-hero, depending on which way you look at it, but is still causing mayhem. And revenge, he is taking revenge on the system. And that, to me, is really very interesting because when you start seeing things that are less obvious.
Episode 21 was when the execution was supposed to happen.
All right, your turn to talk. Just my turn to make sure.
But you okay. So talking about Stain, right? So Stain's story is fucking sad.
Are we taking revenge on each other, trying to figure out who's right and who's wrong?
I'm literally looking at the episode list of Rising the Shield
That's
Hero
where I'm
Season 1.
fucking doing right now. Okay, so Stain. Well, what about him? Will,
Right.
From your perspective?
I like him as a character. I think he's a lot more interesting than any of the other characters.
I honestly think so as well. I think Stain is not only was that arc very cool in terms of action and actually a lot of very interesting.
Plus, his power is super dope.
It is extremely dope. But just that whole fight scene that was in that alley, I think, just took way longer than I thought it would. But every minute of it was fucking awesome.
It's a shame that, like, with subsequent seasons of My Hero Academia... Okay, Season 3 was good. I like Season 3. Season 4 was I haven't watched Season 5, and Season 6 is coming up in fall, right? Is it fall that's Season 6 is coming out?
Yes.
So,
Season 6, yeah.
I mean, I didn't watch shit for Season 5. I think we might need to, at least just to be able to preview what Season 6 has in store for us. So... The whole idea of justice is very much like ingrained with the whole story of My Hero Academia because they're all superheroes fighting as part of a large agency against, villains and evildoers and all that. And this is always like the case with these kinds of superhero based shows, right? Where you come across a villain who is supposed to be like super powerful, evil, just will do nothing and like, nothing at all to just stop reaching their motive, reaching their goal. But then there's always that little backtrack.
Fuck, you're right.
Yeah,
Shit.
Yeah,
God,
see?
fuck it.
Anyways, so like the whole Stain story arc was, in my opinion, the best story out of all of My Hero Academia because if you just keep on like seeking justice for the purpose of seeking justice, it gets boring after a while. But when you meet across a character that is literally in the middle of that gray area between what's right and what's wrong, that's when you have that sort of morality debate of, okay, this person is definitely doing some real sick shit, but are they really wrong for doing what they're doing?
And then the fact that you have to have that through line, that thought process, I really commend series, regardless of its quality if they could allow conversation or allow me to like ponder about what the show's trying to say or the greater picture, right? I think similarly, we talk about revenge. There's always going to be just things like anger, hatred, honor, dishonor that always gets tied in with it. But let's put it on its head and flip it and think of what happens when you would expect someone to take revenge because this person has been like unjustly wronged, but then chooses or has been like stolen from this person and chooses not to be the better person, to take the high road. And using My Hero Academia as an example, and I just realized this while we're talking about Stain, there was a student that was ranked very high, if not number one, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, you're talking about season 4?
Yeah, and this person's ability at the beginning was, I mean, there's no spoiler. What's his name? Vermilion, something like, oh, God, fuck, I forgot. But he is the number one student at UA Academy. And his ability is quite interesting, actually. And when I try my best not to spoil it, but he actually has to spend that extra kind of thinking to try to see how he can use his powers to be able to fight and defend society. And he has worked so hard that he has now become the number one student at that time. Then something happens which causes a very big shakeup. And Vermilion?
I can't find it right now. Hold on.
Shit.
Keep talking.
What is up with us today? Like, we just like have been like...
Okay, when was the last time you watched My Hero Academia?
No, I'm not.
That's what I mean.
I'm not shitting you.
I don't remember shit. You don't remember shit either.
Yeah, I know.
It's been a long time since we watched this. We haven't even watched season 5.
Right. But you remember what I'm talking...
I know exactly what you're talking
so let's not like mention exactly what that is. But the way that character deals with the resolution or lack thereof of that incident really kind of... Lemillion. Right, thank you.
Really? Not Vermilion. Vermilion is the city in Pokemon.
Really?
Yeah, Vermilion City. There's Viridian City, Vermilion City. Vermilion City is where you fight the Thunder Trainer.
We should call this episode the ADHD episode or something, not revenge.
What are we talking about again?
Talking about revenge, Will.
We're not talking about Darius and all that?
Okay. So going back to the whole what is right, what is wrong, obviously that's subjective and is different, varying by the person, but there is a common belief, and there's obviously even a saying for it, which is two wrongs don't make a right, or two wrongs make a right. Actually, it depends on the way that you see that situation, which is you fight fire with fire, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. But does that mean then you should degrade yourself, so to speak, to that level, the way that you're being treated, just because you got done dirty? Does that mean then, therefore, the other person does not deserve a fair shake or fair treatment because they didn't give you the time of day?
Well, I mean, that in the end is just essentially like revenge, but at what cost, right?
Exactly.
There's also that it's one of those things that I really, really hate about these kinds of revenge stories where imagine like somebody is like a mass murderer and killed everyone you knew. And in order for you to get to them, you have to kill everyone that they know. And then you reach them. And then you're like, no, you don't deserve to die. I will not become you. But my dude, you just killed everybody as well. You just literally did the same thing that the villain just did. Like, you are literally that person. You've become the very monster that you used not to become. So, like, those kinds of stories, though, like when you're saying like you don't want to degrade yourself down to that level, you don't want to sort of like shed your own sense of humanity to be able to obtain that revenge. Again, it's just one of those morality discussions too. Like, what does it really mean to take revenge? And if doing that revenge means you have to carry out the exact same form that the villain, the perpetrator, did, does that make it right? You know, like it. Yeah, in essence, right? Does doing these two wrongs then equate to becoming
like
right
it evens out, like
right?
neutralizes itself, right?
Some say would it be yeah, some say yeah, and others would be like no, that's completely the wrong thing to do.
Now we have gone on quite general about revenge, right? It hasn't made it to be very anime or manga specific, And I think before we transition to that, I would just like to say one more thing, and I'll obviously give Will the platform to say however much he wants, and we'll vibe off of that. But the other thing is in regards to the way revenge is being portrayed nowadays, which is even in anime and manga, it is portrayed usually with physical violence and just carnage rather than sheer, like, you know what I mean? Rather than a revenge of figurative, metaphorical, psychological sense. Usually when I see revenge nowadays, it's like, you killed my mom, so I'm going to kill your mom, or I'm going to kill you. Or like...
It's very one-dimensional.
Yeah, and it's just... I think that revenge can be this highly, highly complex thing. And usually, then it ties in with other things. I think another very well-known series that is very, very old, but really is an all-time anime, but more manga classic is Monster.
Yeah.
And in regards to revenge...
God, Monster's so good.
A high degree of guilt is also drives that kind of revenge journey for this doctor, the surgeon, the main character.
Yeah, guilt, imposter syndrome. It's a lot of those things where it's like, even if you were to take revenge, right, what purpose does it really serve? And like, are you really taking revenge because you've been wronged, or are you taking revenge because you feel others have been wronged and you have to take things into your own hands?
Or is it because you are trying to rectify this one mistake that you made in the very, very beginning, and because of that, you have decided to forego your own life and your own happiness just so that you can get rid of this force that is just wreaking havoc.
And that's not to say that there isn't that very one-dimensional element of revenge in the story as well, right? The central character we're talking about here is Dr. Tenma, and all the other characters he meets along the way have their own stories of revenge, which can be one-dimensional. My family was wiped out by this army, by this political system that oppressed us, so we're going to rise and take over everything and wipe them out so that they feel what we felt before.
I mean, do you think we can spoil like the first...
It's
like
been
the
over
premise,
20
right?
years, man.
So Tenma basically is the surgeon that at one point in time, the very fateful night, I think it was raining, it was all dramatic and shit, there were two patients.
They were a pair of twins.
The pair of twins that... No.
There
were two patients.
And
one was a very famous politician, I think, or like
the son of a politician or something like that.
Yeah, and then the other one was just like some random like child, I think, right? So essentially, this person, Dr. Tenma, due to political pressure, due to trying to uphold
what he felt was his own sense of justice,
he decided to save essentially the wrong person, because the person that he ends up saving ends up being this humongously terrible, horrendous person.
A maniacal serial killer that doesn't necessarily kill, but definitely pulls a lot of strings in the background that just ruins the lives of everybody involved with Dr. Tenma.
Also, I just have to say, if there was an anime dictionary, and if you look under Stone Face Cold Blood, it is the picture of the villain in Monster.
It's really cute that your dictionary still has pictures in it.
Look, I'm illiterate. It's hard to read words, but pictures look nice.
Well, I mean, like you did like a science degree, right? You have a lot of graphs, a lot of pictures in there too.
Yeah, I don't know anything about words.
I just
know numbers.
I
dude.
just did linguistics, so it was all words for me, no pictures whatsoever. A picture of words is just words. So no, but the whole story of Monster is a brilliant telling of what revenge really means and like the purpose it serves for the main characters and the characters that are on the periphery as well. If you haven't read it or you haven't watched it, personally, I would recommend you read it. I always feel that those kind of suspense thrillers are best read as opposed to watched.
And I think it's mainly because the pace is something that you can control with a manga, whereas with the anime, unless if you do the egregious thing of speeding or slowing it down, which I do not condone,
I'm fine if you do whatever you want with your anime and manga.
I mean, you're fine. I just will judge you. But hey, look, the manga though is not only portrayed at a pace where you can literally like, oh, I'll read back or I missed something. It is also a very slow anime manga series.
I think like the first like 3 episodes covers like the first 3 chapters of the manga, it's very slow.
I remember at one point, and this is not really a spoiler, Dr. Tenma gets a gun, and that was just like it was like if you were playing a video game just to get a weapon, that was the longest time it took forever to get a weapon of any sort. And when it did, it was like so like important.
But Monster is damn good, so whichever medium you choose, I'm sure you'll enjoy it.
I think, though, Will, what do you think about revenge as kind of a theme for a lot of anime? Because I think the whole kind of moral dilemma, the whole kind of life lesson that you would get from revenge has already been done to bits, right? The whole like, oh, are you human or are you less human? What is right? What is wrong? The system failed you, so you have to take matters in your own hands. Is it worth it? That type of thing. Everyone has done it, right? But I think, honestly, if the thing that you should, in my opinion, the things that a lot of good shows nowadays that have revenge as its main kind of crux is everything else related to the revenge, like the characters, their dialogue, their setting, right? Those are the things I think nowadays that people focus on and appreciate rather than being surprised by a new take on revenge.
I think like it's definitely one of those like enjoying the journey rather than reaching the destination. Like when it's very specifically with the character thing as well, right? Like you sometimes when you see a revenge story play out, you know what's going to happen at the end. You just want to see what happens on the in-betweens and how much more a character develops, how much of an impact it has on the peripheral stories that happen like concurrently with this particular revenge arc. So you talked about Sasuke, right? And a lot of shit in Naruto as a series is kind of just whack. Like I think there's a lot. There's a lot of like really like why is the story even here or like what purpose does this serve? But the overriding story of Sasuke being an edgy little teenager to becoming like this mastermind ninja, that's the journey of revenge, and that's what it played as an effect on Sasuke's character development, and that's one of the best developments of a character throughout the whole Naruto series.
Really, I think Garu and Rock Lee are pretty dope.
Rock Lee's great. Rock Lee, but he doesn't necessarily have...
I like Garu, though. Garu is sort of like my main...
Characters, yes, but in terms of like the change, the development of a character from beginning to end...
I would say Garu, though.
Garu doesn't... Garu gets his ass saved by Naruto, and then he realizes that his life is dependent on others helping him, too. The power of friendship won at the end of the day.
Isn't that just the cornerstone
that's what Naruto is, right?
Exactly, right.
Shout your friend's name.
But I do understand that, like, at that time when I was reading and watching Naruto for the first time, right? The Sasuke revelation and the journey that he goes down once he realizes the quote-unquote truth of the thing that he has been obsessing about for so long and then chooses essentially a new obsession. But whether or not he chooses it by choice or because he kind of feels like he has to, regardless, that revelation I thought was done so well. And I don't want to spoil it even though it's been fucking forever. And you can easily Google it and get spoiled. But
all the episodes are on Netflix.
On the off chance you have not known about this twist or this kind of revelation, I thought it was, like, especially like at that time for me, it was so impactful. Like, holy shit. Like, what the fuck?
That was a great character. It's not necessarily an arc because it spans so many different like seasons, if you even call it seasons. It's like over like 700 episodes of Naruto, but the whole story development for Sasuke and his reason for existing is just beautiful. The other one I really like was the Pain arc. The Pain arc was great.
I need to remember.
Do you remember Jiraiya, the frog sage?
Yeah.
Do you remember how he had 3 disciples?
No.
The 3 orphans?
No.
Spoilers.
Dude, fuck, I don't fucking remember jack shit, dude.
I mean, I watched all of Naruto like 2-3 years ago, so it's still relatively fresh in my mind.
So I played the Naruto fighting video game like a while ago, and
half the characters...
Do you want to know something real dumb?
What?
I forgot that the other Tails existed.
It was only just 8 Tails and 9 Tails?
I was just like, oh, it's just Killer Bee and Naruto. And I'm like, what? There were all these other Tails. I was like, yeah, of course, Jason. Fuck.
Because they all died already.
Yeah, but still, like, I thought, like, I forgot this very simple concept that is plain as day. But anyways, I think if we go off of Naruto for a bit because we have. I think
This is just an episode about Naruto,
really
because it actually does have one of the best revenge arcs.
It does actually
in a lot of anime and manga.
like to be honest, it really does. Yeah, for sure. I think Vinland Saga was a show that I finished recently, at least the first season, with the second season coming in January, that I thought was rather interesting, even more so if you take the revenge part out of it. I know not everyone subscribes to that belief, but for me personally, the revenge thing got me in the door.
But it became secondary quite quickly.
Very quickly. But at the same, because it was the same shtick.
It's the overriding theme that's there in the background, because you're seeing all the other developments that happen with the other Nordic tribes, with what happens to Thorfinn's development as well. And Jesus Christ, Thorfinn is a terrifying character because just there's no soul in that kid anymore, right? But
He was a husk of a human being. Really?
Yeah. There's I mean, I could say the same thing about Agni from Fire Punch, but I don't want to talk too much about Fire Punch because
Isn't Agni something to do with fire, right, Will?
is it actually?
Yeah. Wait, fuck, you didn't know this?
No.
Okay. Let me double check just to make sure, but I'm pretty sure Agni has ties to the word fire.
Oh, I spelled it wrong.
It's the fire god, I thought. Yeah.
Oh, right. It's the Sanskrit word meaning fire, and that's the Vedic fire deity of Hinduism.
Yeah, dude, don't doubt me when it comes to.
Oh, but when it comes to Rising of the Shield Hero,
Yeah, then you can doubt me all you want.
all right. We'll talk more about that when we finish
Dude,
season 2.
my memory works
It's selective as fuck.
It's so fucking selective. I wish it wasn't. I wish it was fucking consistent.
All right. Well, do you think it might be a good time to go into maybe some of the anime series you want to recommend?
Okay, so we have talked a lot about shows that use revenge, use the themes that associate with revenge as a part of the show, but
Yeah.
not the entire show. We have talked about that throughout this discussion. So Will and I have actually found, watched, chosen 3 shows in particular that has revenge as really the main standout thing.
And then there's one series which is I'll talk about it a bit more, but revenge is still very much part of it, but there is other things that go along with it. So should we talk about your favorite type of ramen, the Hakata Tonkotsu variety?
Okay, really, we're starting with that.
Why not? Because here's the thing. Because like I've known about this manga series for a while.
It's not a manga series.
I thought is it an original?
It's based on a novel.
So much in the same way that Durara is also a novel.
That's
right?
correct.
So there you go. Okay, so I'll let you to introduce the series then.
So Hakata Tonkotsu Ramens. I don't know why there's a plural, but okay, sure.
Actually, is okay.
Yeah, it's based on the novel of the same name, written by Chiaki Kisaki and illustrated by Hako Ichiro. And this novel won the grand prize at the 20th annual Dengeki Novel Award. So it's a very prestigious prize to win. It premiered one cur in winter of 2018, produced by Studio Satellite with a MAL score of 7.38. So this show takes place in this fictional kind of district of Hakata, where is in Fukuoka, actually.
My favorite prefecture.
Your Japan stomping grounds kind of type. You really like Fukuoka. I really like Fukuoka.
I love Fukuoka.
So
chill.
So here, no one is chilled because everyone basically are assassins and hitmen. This is just a place where they all have like these business cards that have their like fake occupation, but when you put a lighter underneath, the business card changes colors and you see their real occupation. Will. Okay. So this show has heavy ties to Durarara, to the point where they even have a crossover series together. And if you have watched Durarara, you will, and if you like it, I think Hakata Tonkotsu Ramens follows that in very similar vein in that there's a huge cast of characters. Some of them have very fucked up things in their minds, but rather with Durarara focusing on mysticism and kind of weird wackiness, here it is focused purely on revenge and assassinations and power or lack thereof. It is about a guy who, for no particular reason, likes to cross-dress as a high school girl. Sure. And I guess in many ways, because his form of assassination is to stab people and kill people with knives, to get into a lot of places looking like a high school girl, I guess, as a JK, gets you in a lot of places. Well, I don't know. I can't speak on that as a personal experience. But it's to deal with his revenge with this Yakuza/triad society that governs this part of Hakata, as well as about a detective, private eye detective that I can only describe as suave.
Do they feature any Yakuza that are from Kitakyushu?
Maybe,
because that was one of the big
Why would you know that?
Because I know a lot about Southern Japan and their diaspora.
Okay, but what is their distinguishing factors? Is there anything?
No, it's just that they had a really big
Like a name. That's it, right?
Just a lot of the Yakuza in the South of Japan were based in Kitakyushu.
Right.
And I'm assuming then that they're all based in Hakata, which is like the major city of the major area of Fukuoka. Are they fighting anyone in Tenshi as well? In Tenjin?
No. There is no like large like Yakuza underground society wars. No, okay. It's mainly about an underground society of assassins and hitmen, and they all provide different forms of services. It's actually kind of weird because there are services that you would expect, like, oh, help me kill this one person. Fine. And then there are hitmen that kill hitmen, which is like now a more typical kind of occurrence. But then there are also hitmen and assassins that only go after cases of revenge to get back at people.
So this is like the perfect candidate for this topic of discussion.
Yeah, and it really ties in a lot of different characters and how they view violence and revenge, and how sometimes getting back at someone is, first of all, a really fucking hard thing to do, especially when everyone are assassins and hitmen. But also, like, what's the point? Which is like the very typical kind of morals of the story type deal. It's not necessarily a great show like Durarara, but it is a very fun show for sure, because with Durarara, a lot of the wackiness is not present in Tonkotsu Ramens, but just the amount of fucked upness of like people's heads get decapitated, like blood fountain type bullshit. Like, really,
it's a pretty gnarly show.
It's a pretty gnarly show, yeah. So it's a very decent show for sure. I would say 7.5, but because I don't think it's really an 8, it would be a 7. But it's still a very good watch.
Does it feature a lot of walks by the waterside with little stalls featuring
like
ramen?
Oden? They have like Oden like 500 times.
All the yatais in the side. Those are
okay,
what the stalls are
this
called.
Is not really a spoiler. There's literally like this like ramen stall, like, you know, like the ones that people like a trolley.
Yeah, that's a yatai.
Right. And it turns out that if you want to get a hit done, you talk to that guy.
And you order a specific bowl of ramen?
I don't know if you have to order a specific bowl of ramen, but yes, you talk shop there.
Right. Okay.
And there's just all these other random shit. Like there's like they talk about baseball a lot for some fucking reason, and baseball plays a very important part.
I don't think that Fukuoka has a very good baseball team. Like, I'm speaking, like, I'm not trying to insult anybody here, but yeah. I thought, okay, all right. It just does sound like something that's up my alley. If it's got Durara vibes and it's set in Fukuoka, yeah, I'm down to check it out.
Yeah, I think it's a very decent show. Also, a very jazzy, groovy soundtrack, so it's good.
Right. So, on to one of the shows that I've watched. I think I watched this show maybe 6 to 9 months ago. It was actually quite a while ago since I watched it. The show in question is called 91 Days, which is an anime original that debuted in summer 2016. It was produced by Studio Shuka, which is also known for doing Matsume's Book of Friends, as well as Durara. So not that they have any connection whatsoever, but same studio. So this is a very classic kind of mafia revenge retribution story featuring a family. This is set in Prohibition America as well.
Yeah, Prohibition.
So in the 20s and 30s. So
just so people who don't know their history, Prohibition is when alcohol was banned, but then there were all these like moonshines, all these kind of like what they call it, speakeasies and stuff like that.
And it was all very much like mafia run as well.
Exactly.
So a lot of it was found between New York and Chicago, because a lot of mafia nests in Chicago. So this was essentially following the story of Angelo Lagusa, a young boy who is
a very Japanese name for sure.
Yeah, but they have to be. The main culprit of the story are the Venettis.
Oh shit!
Yeah, so very very classic American Italian names, even though they all speak Japanese. It's just like very much like vanilla, pure revenge story. Young boy sees his whole family wiped out by a gang that's been ordered to take hits on a specific family from the higher ups of the mafia tree, and the boy ends up growing up to become a vindictive killer. It's kind of like one of those. You've watched Infernal Affairs, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, he turns goes into the mafia as a runner and slowly works his way up to exact his revenge. Now, it's a very plain story in the sense that, like, if you want revenge, that's literally what the whole story is about. But I think it's a pretty well written and well executed story. Most of the time, whenever you have these kind of stories that are like just very one dimensional, it can get dry. But if the writing is done well, it can save the story. And I feel that that's what the case of 91 Days is.
So Will and I and a mutual friend of ours watched this together on Discord throughout a period of time. And I was the only one that didn't like the show at all. But to be fair, the kind of overall atmosphere of 91 Days I thought was done very, very well. And the whole revenge type, it's the thing where it's like it's always raining. It just is like everything is drab, everything is gray.
The sun only ever shows up at the end of the series.
Yeah, so it's one of those that I did not really vibe with the whole in-your-face heavy-handedness part of it.
It's like the whole thing was filmed. Like when the sepia filter.
Yeah,
it's like really like brown grayscale. That's literally what the whole aesthetic is.
Yeah, but it doesn't have a lot of brownish like old film footage.
It has a lot of brown in the sense that it's just mud and rain.
Okay, that is very true.
Like burlap, like jackets and all that.
Yep.
It's that kind of palette. So it can look very drab for like on initial viewing, and I get that. The story itself can also be very simplistic, and I get that. But when you put it all together, it's quite a well told story. I gave it an 8 in the end because I felt that the execution of the revenge at the end was very well done. I think that the character design and the character stories were also really good because, like, whilst it is a very one-dimensional motivation of exacting revenge against a mafia family that wronged you, there's a lot of twists and turns that happen throughout the story that, whilst expected, are also done very, very beautifully well. I think the strong saving grace of 91 Days are the characters themselves. There are some really, really good character performances in the story.
And to be fair to everyone, a lot of people like 91 Days. It's a 7.83 average on Mal. And the reason why maybe I didn't like it as much was I actually didn't give it enough of a chance. Like, I was so turned off. I think I only watched like 2 episodes or 3 episodes. And then I was done. And it seems that like I missed out on a lot of potentially very interesting and good bits that would have changed my view of the show. So maybe I'll get back around to it.
If it helps to change anyone's mind, Ken Suda plays a really good villain in the series.
Ken Suda just does good work, dude.
And he's like his performance in the series, fucking great. But yeah, no, I think that not much else to say because the more I say, it'll spoil the story. But then again, the story is also not that hard to sort of predict and get into. So just check it out. 91 Days is a solid watch, solid 8 out of 10.
Now, the next show that I'm going to talk about is a show that premiered in fall 2015. Has I think at least 4 seasons.
You mean 2005?
2005, Will. That is correct. Thank you for correcting me.
Because I was going to say, if you said 2015 Studio Dean, you might not be so happy about it, but
No, actually, I don't know if the fourth season premiered around that time, but I was misreading it. The first season did come out in fall of 2005 by Studio Dean, anime original with a MAL score for season 1 7.62, but 333,660 members. That's a lot of members. I'm talking about Hellgirl.
Or Jikoku Shoujo.
Right, which is the direct translation for Hellgirl. It is, if there is, I think there's a well-known saying where it's like, if you're seeking for revenge, rather than dig one grave, dig two, like something along those lines, essentially implying that you are also killing yourself by exacting revenge on another. This show is essentially that. It's very episodic, and the structure is essentially when someone wrongs you, apparently will when you go on the internet at a website at midnight, there will be a special website that shows up, and you type in the name.
It's like a Bloody Mary kind of thing.
You type in the name of the person that you want to exact revenge upon, and if the Hell Girl hears your summon, she will exact revenge for you. However, the condition that she lays out is because it is revenge coming from a sense of hatred and a sense of negativity. When you get your revenge, but when you pass away, you will also be sent and banished to hell as well.
So I watched the first episode of this a long time ago.
Yeah, we watched at the same time.
You've gone off to essentially finish up the whole thing. So
it's like 2 curs, yeah.
How do you feel about this production that was pre-Fate Stay Night? This is 2005 Studio Dean, so back when it still had some credibility.
I think watching Hellgirl in a binge-like fashion probably did it a huge-ass disservice. The reason is because they do the same shtick for like 3/4 of the first season, which is, hey, let's introduce a bunch of new characters. Let's have one of them being wronged or done dirty in some way, and then there was another person that got away with it scot-free or, has leverage or whatever, and then this first person who got wronged goes up to the website, then meets the Hell Girl and her kind of entourage that each has like a special ability. Like one can like have like change his face, one has like a voice thing, that kind of thing. And then you see like the person get their just desserts, and then at the end of the show you see that the seal that shows that you're going to be banished to hell, the contract has been made because the Hell Girl has done her end of the deal, and then it ends with a candle to represent when the candle runs out, you will be banished to hell, because that implies your life is over. You pass away. That is the same formula for 3/4 of the first season.
And then at the end, the last 6-7 episodes,
actually even less than that, actually, now that I think about it, it focuses a bit more on the Hell Girl herself, which I actually thought was the more interesting part of who she is, how she became this quote-unquote Hell Girl, and why she does what she does, that type of thing. But for like 3/4 of it, if you were to binge it, I just don't think it's that productive, because you will just basically see the same kind of formula, rinse and repeat. But if I were to watch it week by week to kind of see like, oh, here's my weekly take on someone getting done dirty and then someone else exacting revenge and then both of them getting banished to hell, that's Hellgirl. Now, I heard that the later seasons, they expand on the characters that are always there rather than focusing on the victims and the people that are getting their revenge. But I don't know, because I don't think I will watch season 2, 3, and 4 for a while, just because we just have a lot of things to do, and this is,
But you still will watch it at some point, right?
I do think that the overall like general sentiment, general vibe is very, like, it's creepy, that kind of thing. Like, it's not scary, but it's just like mysterious, kind of like murky water. Like, it's just like this feels uncomfortable, but it's not scary. And sometimes seeing the people get their just desserts at the very end it's like because it ties into what they were what they were accusing the other person of, and sometimes it's just done very well. It's just like, yeah, and it's nice to see bad guys eat it, that kind of thing.
So Hellgirl, pretty good, right?
Yeah, I would give it a 7.5 as well. And if it wasn't for the last few episodes where they actually expand on the quote-unquote lore and the characters, I would have probably given it a 7. But I think as it stands, I would probably give it an 8.
Yeah, there's also like a very like comparative series, a live action series that came out from Thailand that actually is kind of similar to the Hellgirl.
Oh yeah, that live action one, right?
Girl from Nowhere. So the main character, her name is called Kitty. She actually drew inspiration from both Hellgirl and Tomie. So she dresses
for real?
She dresses as Tomie in that aesthetic, but also like the whole episodic format of like character does something really bad and then she comes in, but she's actually the embodiment of a specific curse, and then you see like that person get their just desserts at the end, and then the last couple episodes are focusing on why this person exists.
Fuck it. I'm gonna do a deviation. Will improvise. I want to talk about Tomie because actually that's a very good shout actually for revenge.
Yeah.
Junji Ito, like come on.
Long haired femme fatale.
Yeah, and Tomie is basically about this girl who is called Tomie, who's a part of a class, high school class, and an accident happened during a school trip, and Tomie was she basically died due to the accident, and in order to hide that fact that she died, the whole class kind of was like, well, we all don't want to get in trouble, this is going to be real bad, let's just cut her up and bury her and just pretend this never existed, and we all promise each other never to tell a soul. Well, sure, maybe you don't tell anybody, but Tomie decides to come back from the dead and murder all of you. So I quite like Tomie actually as a manga, Junji Ito manga for sure. It's really good.
Your favorite one?
Spiral.
Spiral's still the
Uzumaki
classic, right?
is always going to be that, but I would say Tomie would be like second for sure, and I think third would be Gyo, maybe?
Gyo, the fish people.
Yeah, I mean that's always like that's the go-to hierarchy for a lot of people.
What's the other one he did? It's not like the Hills of Eyes. It's the one where
the Hill of Eyes
is the guy. It's like a male character in the foreground, and then in the background, it's like a whole like hill covered in trees. I forgot what it was called. That was a good one too. Anyways, enough about Junji Ito. If you want revenge stuff, Tomie is great. Hellgirl's decent. It's pretty good, right? We're going to go into the last series that I personally wanted to talk about because while it's a story that begins with revenge, the revenge itself is not necessarily... It's not so much about taking revenge. It's the philosophical debate on what the revenge's purpose is, and whether exacting it will actually guarantee the outcome that the main character is looking for. I'm talking here about Yona of the Dawn, or the full name, Yona, the girl standing in the blush of dawn, or Akatsuki no Yona. So it is a series that's based on the manga of the same name, written and illustrated by Mizuno Kusanagi. This is published in English by Viz Media under the Shoujo Beat imprint since 2016. And it actually also, like, funny enough, whilst the manga debuted in 2009, in 2020, it actually won the best-selling manga series of digital form by Hakusensha's Denshi Shoseki Taisho, the ebook award. So it has done pretty well.
It is still being published, and it's releasing its 39th volume this month. Just think about that for a sec.
It's a very important manga. I mean, first of all, in terms of like shoujo, at least when it comes to like Hana to Yome, which is like a really big shoujo print publication, it's only second to Fruits Basket.
Yeah, I would say Snow White with the red hair is also in similar category, but not as well known. For sure.
No, not
for
at
sure.
all. I
for
think like,
sure.
Even if you just look at Mal stats, like the popularity for it is sky high.
Yeah.
The rating for it is also ridiculously high. The manga,
Yona of the Dawn, definitely is one of those like gods, essentially shoujo gods. You do not doubt the power.
Now, this series premiered in fall 2018, so actually very, very recent. Also done by Studio Pierrot. Now, I have a love-hate relationship with Pierrot. You're kind of lukewarm on them as well,
No,
right?
well, they did, this very outstanding series called Tokyo Ghoul and Tokyo Ghoul Re, right?
Yeah, they also did Naruto as well.
Yeah, and they did like this shitty series called Akudama Drive. It's not like I'm lying and being sarcastic about any of the statements I just made.
Yeah. So
Akudama Drive really good though. You should watch it. But yes,
Naruto, pretty good.
pretty good.
Don't watch Tokyo Ghoul. Just read it.
I think that is like what the GAP kind of official statement.
It's the first line of our Bible.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So not even going to talk about the scores because it's good. Not even talk about the ratings and the popularity because they're all really, really high. But if you were to look at Mal and just see the manga score, it's like an 8.8. It's crazy high. It's like top 30 among the platform.
That's super high.
But when you compare the anime score to it, the anime is an 8.03, which is
still very good score.
But there's a huge gap between what it is based off of and what it's actually produced.
But to be fair, right, when you have literally 30 plus volumes probably at that time, maybe 32 volumes out, it's kind of hard to cover only like 3 of those 30 something volumes and have it be able to hold its ground against the original source, right?
Exactly. And that's not anything new for us as well, right? A lot of times the manga source is the pinnacle.
Or the light novel one, yes, absolutely.
Right? The OG source usually is the higher scored one because of the fact that it is the source. And then adaptations afterwards, they have their own personal liberties in terms of what they choose to adapt or what they choose to cut. But more specifically to the Yona at the Dawn anime adaptation, 24 episodes, so 2 curves, focusing on a young princess named Yona, who finds that on one fateful night, she finds her father, the king of the kingdom, murdered in cold blood, and she's ousted from the kingdom. However, she does have some faithful servants that follow along with her. One in particular, his name is Hack-Sun. Hack-Sun? It's great. He's also this super powerful warrior general that has an undying love for her in the sense that he has to protect her no matter what. He has to be there for her no matter what, even if he's kind of tsundere-esque.
Isn't it kind of like a retainer? I think that's like the official kind of term.
But he basically he is indebted to his own duties to be able to protect the princess. And so she goes on this journey to be able to sort of figure out why this has happened to her, why this has happened to her family. And the main motive for her is, I need to take back the throne. I need to seek revenge against the kingdom that ousted me and killed my family, and I need to take back what's mine.
I mean, you need to take back what is ours, right?
Well, no.
Well, rightfully hers.
Hers. Not ours, though. It's hers singular because she gets to rule the kingdom and decide what her subjects do.
Sure.
But as she goes on this journey, she then starts collecting a posse of other young, strapping men to fight alongside her. So these then all have their own kind of quirks and powers and all that. It's kind of hard to explain. You'll find out more when you actually start watching it.
Because lest you forget, this is actually a shoujo series.
Not just a shoujo series. It's a shoujo historical fantasy action adventure harem.
Ugh.
Right?
What a mouthful.
Not a single word that even pertains to revenge whatsoever. But the story itself is actually, I think it's a very beautiful story because calling it a revenge story is kind of a disservice to Yona of the Dawn. But I would also argue that revenge plays a very important part because it's the idea of revenge. It is what revenge means to Yona, and for her to be able to pursue it and attain it, what does it actually mean for her own standing, for her own morality, for her own perspective of actually being the leader, the queen of this throne. And the more characters she meets along the way, the more you see that it's similar to Dr. Tenma's story in Monster. A lot of the characters that she comes across have their own sort of more one-dimensional experiences of wanting revenge, of being on the wrong side of revenge. And it becomes more a debate on whether revenge is the right action to take, whether getting revenge will actually make her feel fulfilled, or if basically this whole pursuit is futile and she's better off just just living out her life right now, because the fact that she's still alive is a really good thing, especially when you have a kingdom that's chasing you down and trying to murder you in cold blood.
So this has two curves, 24 episodes.
And also a OVA as well.
Which they announced very recently, actually, that I think has yet to be released, actually. I'm not sure. But, Will, do you think that 24 episodes tells a complete story? Obviously,
absolutely not. But what I liked about it is it has that charm that you get from Ancient Magus's Bride.
Okay, fuck. Yeah.
Right?
Let's
Central main female character with red hair, with spiritual, powerful beings, male companions around her. And then there's also that sort of like historical backdrop that gives me very strong 12 Kingdoms vibes as well. So that's kind of why I like it. I like 12 Kingdoms. I kind of like Ancient Magus's Bride. So therefore you add those two together, and surely I should like Yona of the Dawn. And yeah, you're right. I do really like it. I gave it an 8, only because of the fact that, very similar to what Jason was saying, it does not tell the full story. In fact, like, it kind of ends at a point where you're very certain that it is just the beginning.
Oh shit, that sucks.
Right? So like literally, like, once she's completed the full circle of all 24 episodes, then that's when it starts to become clear. There's a lot more shit you need to watch, and it's been 4 years since this anime debuted. I know the OVA's here now, so
more than 4 years, right?
2018.
Oh, because of season 1 of Yona of the Dawn?
Yeah.
Isn't it fall of 2014?
Why did I write 2018 here? Huh. Oh well, I'm wrong this time. But yeah, it's been a while since we've been waiting for. Well, I haven't been waiting. I only just watched Yona of the Dawn yesterday.
That's why I said that the OVA just came out. Like, they announced it in 2020, and it was like everyone was like, "Why?" But yeah, sure. But why? But okay, take it, right?
Yeah, and I think it's just because of the fact that there's still like a very strong fandom for the manga as well.
It's ongoing, dude. 30 something, like what, since 2009? That's fucking insane.
39 volumes, right?
Yeah. How, like, and to be relevant is it's like One Piece level, but in the shoujo category, reverse harem category. It's amazing, honestly.
Yeah, and it's like near the top when it comes to like most revered shoujo series, right? So,
and that's why I didn't read it or watch it, because it's such. I'm the type that I would not be content with just the anime. I knew it just by looking at the amount of the reputation and the amount has already been drawn and written. And I'll be like, but I also feel like 20-something I think it was like 25, 28 volumes at that time. And I was just like, I had this choice in front of me. It was like, I could either go all in on this or I shouldn't go in whatsoever. And I've chosen the latter rather than the former.
Yeah, I think, like, it's not necessarily the right or wrong move. There's still, like, who knows when Yona of the Dawn, the manga is going to end.
I mean, it's like One Piece. I'm not going to shit on One Piece. No way. It's awesome. Yeah. But I'm not going to watch it.
You could read all 1,000 chapters of it.
Fuck, dude.
It's a good read. But so is Yona of the Dawn. So highly recommend it, because it's just a very beautiful story. Because it's about a girl who wants revenge but doesn't know how to do it. And then when she gets the means to do it, she then wonders if she should even do it in the first place.
Does she get badass?
She gets there.
So she's essentially a princess through and through, then becomes badass princess.
The story progression is kind of similar to how is it Chiaki, the girl from Ancient Magus's Bride? Shisei. Yeah, it's the same progression.
Hattori. I don't even know why I know that.
Because you're a fucking shill, dude. Selective memory.
Hey,
but it's
season 2.
It's the same progression of like how this character starts off as weak and young and innocent, doesn't know what the fuck they're doing, and then as they gain more life experience and start interacting with more people around them to not only build their story but also build their own sense of story, then you start seeing that this is the beginning of this character being completely badass.
Would you read the manga?
No.
Okay.
No, dude, I can't even get around to reading Akane Banashi on Manga Plus, and that's only got like 30 chapters. How the fuck am I going to be going off and reading something that's almost 300 chapters long?
Well, have no fear, Will, because soon you're going to have to read quite a bit for a certain episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for that episode.
Yep.
So that wraps up all the anime series we wanted to recommend that have revenge as the central theme, the central motive for the series. So 91 Days, Hell Girl, Yona at the Dawn, and Hakata Tonkotsu Ramens.
So I think in summary, revenge is a very important theme in the realm of media. It's a very easy concept to not only understand, but to be able to relate to a certain degree. I think the shows that we have highlighted really use all of the mileage that a revenge theme can give you, and then some, with like whether it is characters, aesthetics, or just like anything, even from the soundtrack or the animation quality, right? And just because a show has revenge does not necessarily mean that revenge plays an important role, right? Well, like,
it might be important for that specific arc, but it's not the overriding theme of the series. It doesn't represent the series. So the four that we talked about, very much so, that revenge is the central topic. And if you want just something that just watch something that is just purely based about revenge, I think these four shows would be very much like on your plate.
Yeah, you can't get too far off from recommending these four shows and revenge in the same sentence, for sure. So that is the end of our episode. Will, is there anything you want to say before I get into housekeeping?
You got the right script this time?
Yes, I do.
Nice.
Okay, so you can always reach us through our email, gapalette@gmail.com. That's GAPALETTE@gmail.com. All lowercase, all one word. Or using our handle on Twitter, @PaletteGood, capital P and capital G, all one word. Or through our GAP Discord, and the invite link is in the show description. We have a website, www.goodanimepalette.com, all lowercase, all one word, and we encourage you to check it out when you can. Music credits for this episode. Our outro music is Ninth Power by Henyo. Our break music is Salamanca by Sarah the Instrumentalist. And our outro music is Golden Rules by Luax. You can support the music artists we feature by listening to them on Spotify, Apple Music, or other various music listening platforms. And our royalty-free music was provided by Epidemic Sound. If you're interested in using Epidemic Sounds, you can sign up using our referral link in the show description to get 10% discount on your first 12 months and the first 30 days of your subscription for free. Terms and conditions apply. So I think, revenge was always something that we wanted to cover, but we didn't know how to go about it. But
It's such a broad term, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, now that we've kind of, made it so we have a central focus on having revenge being the main theme of a series rather than just talking about plain old revenge, it at least gives us like an idea of how to structure this conversation. Because if we were just talking about revenge in general, we'd be here for like 5-6 hours.
And it turns out that 4 out of those 6 hours were useless.
Yeah. So like in the end, right? Like we can talk about vigilante revenge. We can talk about tradition and honor, and we can talk about, seeking justice and, fighting against the system and whatnot. But at the end, right, like, we felt that talking about those don't necessarily paint the full picture for the series itself.
But we cannot deny those parts as well. That's why we had to be so, I guess, anal retentive about saying these are animes about revenge versus these are animes that have revenge elements in them. But we also will talk about both of them.
Yeah, because if we were as broad as we wanted to be, I don't think we would be able to cover everything. There would definitely be things that we just miss out, and then that would be a disservice to the whole episode anyway. So to have at least a central focus of why we were talking about a specific revenge series, it at least guides us on how to mold this discussion. And hopefully, after listening to all this, that you feel that the 4 series we discussed are good representations of revenge anime and manga, or you haven't checked them out, you can check them out and then let us know what you think they are good representations.
And if you have any shows that you think we missed or any mangas that you think we should check out, let us know as well. We're just cool and interested to know what everyone thinks about things. So there you go.
Yeah, I think that just about wraps it up. Any final words on your end, or?
I mean, revenge is a dish best served cold. What other revenge quotes are there? Do you remember?
No, not at all. I'm not a very vindictive person, so
Fuck, you just fucking lie.
Oh, okay, fine. What? The whole rising as a shield hero thing, that wasn't vindictive. That was just me trying to make sure that what I said was right, and I would not be proved wrong about that. I was proved wrong about the release date for Yona of the Dawn. I'll take that.
Yeah, I mean, to each
their own.
To each their own. An eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. I don't think.
Let bygones be bygones.
Yeah, love you, man.
I love you too, bro.
All right,
and we love you guys too.
So that is the end of our episode. We just ended on a loving note rather than a vengeful note, right?
Whilst I hide a knife behind my back, right?
Dude, don't Julius Caesar me, bro.
No. It too.
Brutus, it too? Shit. You dropping knowledge like that? Fuck it. Turn this shit off.